All right.
Well, good afternoon and welcome. I see everyone joining in and lining up. We are so honored and excited to be spending the next 90 minutes with all of you for our second annual Future Capital Summit. You're going to see momentarily that you're going to be invited to join as a panelist. We are excited to open up this space for the next 90 minutes to have you participate to the level that you feel comfortable. So options, you can turn your camera on. I'd love to see all of your faces. You can keep it off. You can there'll be room and opportunity for you to participate, or you can stay silent. Please feel free to participate at your comfort level. But as we gather here and open up, our most important guest is the universe. So we are so honored and excited that the universe has led you here right now to be with all of us and to spend the next 90 minutes. So welcome.
And I see some great faces from all over the world. Hello, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah. Hi, Elena, Amelia. This is part of my favorite part of the whole thing. Everyone is to welcome everyone in. Welcome.
Hi there.
Good day.
Hey, Gary.
Hey, nice to see you all.
Hello, Crystal. Hello, Gary.
Nice to see you.
Hey, Crystal.
Cindy.
Hi, Holly.
Crystal. Well, welcome for those of you that are just joining us. Welcome. We are honored to spend the next 90 minutes with you for our Future Capital Annual Summit. This is the second year. First year we joined at United Nations in New York. The universe had another reason for us to not do that this year, and we are excited that you are all taking time out of your day to join us. We have an amazing lineup for the next 90 minutes, but the most important thing is that to honor your reason for being here, to honor each of our unique reasons for being here, you are being promoted from attendee to panelist. We want to let you know that you can participate to your comfort level. So share your screen or not share your screen. I get excited. Hi, Jane Plank. Hi, Kurt Downing. I get all excited to see everyone. Hi, Kirk. Thank you for joining. Hi, John. This is fantastic. As our community continues to grow and expand. Yep, Lawrence, go ahead.
Hi, guys.
Oh, we're just
How are you?
all excited saying hi to everybody. Hey, Ketan.
Hi, Louie.
Hi.
Hi, Gil. I see a lot of faces joining us for last year with our first 50 as we gathered in New York. Hi, Patrick Summers. And I see all these beautiful new faces. When I think about what's led us here right now, the universe, it's nothing short of just amazing. For those of you that weren't at New York last year, you were there in spirit because everything you've done up to right now has led us for you to join us right here at this moment. So feel free to participate at your comfort level. Share your screen if you want to share it. Stay in silence if you want. This is your time and us to gather as a community. Let me tell you a little bit about today. I'm going to, before I pass it over to Lawrence, let me give you an overview of what to expect and why we're all gathered here. So on the second annual Future Capital Summit, coming together as a community to really celebrate our most valuable asset we have, and that's our reason for being here. So you can expect to hear some amazing individuals today, including hearing from yourself. I'll pass it over to Lawrence. We're going to go right into a beautiful moment of silence from Jyoti and Mindahi. And then we're going to lead with our co-conveners, first with William Kennedy for the United Nations, from the United Nations Office for Partnership. We'll flow right into Chantal Carpentier from the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. We'll move to hear from Garry Jacobs and Mila from the World Academy of Art and Science. I'll come back in at any time we need to, but then we're gonna open it up really to the community and to talk about our reason for being here and what has led us right here to this time. So we wanna hear from everyone that wants to participate. But enough of me talking about me. I'm gonna turn it right over to Lawrence Ford. Lawrence is our founder here at Future Capital. He's the founder of Conscious Capital Wealth Management, and he really believes that everyone is here for a reason. And definitely thank you for bringing us all together, Lawrence, for having the bravery and courage, and perhaps maybe a little bit of the craziness bringing us all together. And I'm going to turn it right over to you, Lawrence.
Great. Thank you, Heather. And this is so wonderful to see all these friends and family coming in. And I just remind you to mute yourself when you first enter. We wanted to make sure that this was for you as a community, for all of these incredible souls doing such beautiful work in the nexus of consciousness and capital. And in doing such, we wanted to make sure that everybody was live and promoted as panelists. So feverishly, our leadership team is like hitting buttons behind the scenes right now, promoting all of you.
Hey, Lawrence, excuse me.
Yes.
Excuse me. We've reached our limit of 100, so I can't let anybody else in on screen. So just people should know that, the folks that have come in the last few seconds.
Okay, well, that's a glitch because
Okay.
we are supposed to have.
We have 100 panelists, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I think everyone else can they come in? They can just be
Everyone-
attendees.
Well,
Everyone else can
no
hear.
worries. We'll talk a little bit about how your voice and your image can be heard on a later call as well. We have monthly calls that we'll talk about a little later. But go ahead, Lawrence.
You'll get to see how we roll through these things and fix them as we go. We had a great reception to this. We have about 200 people who are joining us. So you know, we figured we might have a couple things going on the way up. So we'll do our best behind the scenes here to make sure that those of you who could not be promoted to panelists will have the ability to speak, and we'll probably be able to do that through chat and things like that, right, Heather? So we can address that later, as long as they can enter into our into the meeting. And I see the numbers climbing, so we should be good. Okay, so as Heather said, you know, this is really for everybody. I'm going to start with some formal remarks, and then we're going to have a blessing and then move into some formal opening from our friends and partners at the United Nations and the World Academy of Arts and Sciences. So, you know, it's not by chance that this time that we've chosen is on 9/11. And, you know, at this time, 19 years ago, the South and North Tower had both been hit and collapsed, and all 4 planes had been downed. Time stopped, and the world came together. Firefighters rushed in, saving lives. You know, a couple years ago, one of Will Kennedy's friends who invited me to be friends with, Gerard McCabe, a firefighter who became a lawyer, spoke and addressed the UN a couple years ago and talked about, you know, his team that were all lost, who rushed into the buildings with zero thought of their own lives, knowing that they may not come out. And for me, that in a time when the world is in so much fight demonstrates to me the true nature of our species. One of love and knowing that we are all connected. And when we look at one another, we're really looking at ourselves. It also provided us during the 9/11 event, as it is happening now with this global pandemic, is an opportunity for us to wake up from our slumber and remember that we all are here for a reason, and that together we can certainly do better than we've been doing as a species. I'm honored with the Future of Capital to have a couple of really special partners. One is the World Academy of Art and Science, and the other is our partnership with the United Nations Office for Partnership and the Conference on Trade and Development. The United Nations for me holds a very, very special place in my heart. And sometimes I know that it can be, as large organizations get, be dismissed as being too political or too bureaucratic. I have no attention for that. It is a very sacred place, and a place for me that is our beacon of returning back to where we want to become as a species. And all of the work that most of us on this call are participating in. You know, the UN is a beacon of peace, holding the sacred duty to uphold the human rights of citizens above all powers, reminding us that the true power resides in each of us, not fleeting external powers. The preamble of the Constitution of UNESCO reads, "Since wars begin in the minds of men, it is in the minds of men that the defense of peace must be constructed." Future capital was constructed to uphold the two most powerful tools we possess as a species: consciousness, what begins in the minds of men, and capital, the most powerful external tool and the symbol of which was attacked 19 years ago today. So future capital was born out of this simple yet powerful idea that if we are going to change the trajectory of our species, and we're going to do it in time, why not use the two most powerful tools we possess that historically have never really been brought together before? And at the same time, if we're really going to make deep change, as Einstein is always quoted, that no problem is going to be solved by the same consciousness that created it, then we need to bring together true diversity of a multi-stakeholder position with all of their special gifts and opinions to be able to address these challenges. And so from indigenous wisdom to private banking, of which we're all represented on this call today and was last year at our meeting at the United Nations, we are gathered here together to come together to support each other in the work that we're doing individually, bilaterally, and perhaps collaboratively with certain projects that you'll hear of in a bit. I'd like to leave you with an image, which you'll hear probably Heather and Steve and Patty speak about. But it really kind of sets of what Future Capital has become and is becoming. We are proudly a non-entity. We don't have a lot of structure, and we've really let this organically grow itself without ego, which has its own challenges, but it's been a really fun ride on the way. And so what has really become of Future Capital at this point is we vision it like this beautiful garden of a safe space where people working in the nexus of consciousness and capital can come together to be supported and to demonstrate the work that they're doing. So we can either individually be inspired by what's happening or collaboratively, work bilaterally with someone. I can find out, oh my goodness, look at what's happening over here. I didn't know you were doing this. Maybe we can join together, or also collectively with what happens with some of our working groups. Once those seeds start to take root, we start to nurture those more as a group and grow those into working groups and beyond. So the theme of what we're looking at and what we do at Future Capital is all about massive action and supporting the massive action that all of you do on this call today. And I will say, you're going to hear it many times and you're going to find out for yourself shortly once the formal speaking introductions get over, is that there are some of the most extraordinary, beautiful human beings I've ever met in my entire life on this call. And it's part of Future Capital. And so I welcome all of you, and I'm blessed with your presence and your time. And I'm looking forward to having some fun today as we all come back together and join in and collaborate. Now I'm going to hand this over to my brother Mendahi and Jyoti for a little blessing.
I greet you, brothers and sisters, from the heart of the Valley of the Moon, Zambata, in central Mexico. My name is Mindahi Bastida from the Otomi Toltec peoples, and I'm honored to be here and share this time and space. This is important because this is about the new dawn is coming. This is about the consciousness to live with Mother Earth and the celestial bodies. This is the time for us. So I want to pray to the Great Spirit, to the four corners, to the four colors, and to the four sacred elements. And ask to the deities and entities and Grandmother Earth to help us to overcome this civilizational crisis that we are facing these times. The future capital has to be born from our hearts. This is the time for us. Ekimu, tokarmekti nusaki, tokarmekti numui, ini kyonkiki, oka, mahetsi, ini kyonkiki, Nashimeho, Ingu, Nangingu, Shingu, Nangingu, Shinquenten, Shimoy, Bubu. Digna Valley, Sikwada, Lawrence Ford, Siku, Desjardins, Chico, Chichikulu, Sikwada, Chiate, Sidada, Chinana, Digmewa, Chiku, Joiti, Chiku Pita, and all the brothers and sisters, and all our relatives from the four directions, and all relatives from the mountains, the sea, the sky, and the heart of Mother Earth. Ihmewa, laso kuihira so kuiku. Ikamadi. Moshigitini si ku yoiti. Ikamadi. Wahed yoiti.
If everyone would just join me in a silent moment so the divine can sit down with us today. Good morning, Mother, Father, God. Good afternoon from other places that people may be joining us in all the different countries that are circled up here with you today on this unprecedented moment. I give great thanks for the ancestors' hands that is on every single back here, guiding our way, protecting our way, and lighting the way. I give great thanks for Lawrence and his guidance and his mentoring and his inclusion in this prayer for peace and unity amongst all nations, that we might all stand up together in this moment with our hearts wide open, joined there through the intelligence of that heart to stand with Mother Earth. 2 days ago, Creator, I awoke, and in the first time of my 72 years of walking on this planet, there was no dawn. There was no dawn. There were fires that were raging and are still raging across this state, this beautiful land of California. I sit here on the Pomo territory with the Mohawk coastal people, with the ancestors of this land guiding my words today. And I give great honoring to all the original peoples and all the villages across this planet that are guarding and caring for our last remaining eco-diversity systems that are keeping us all with a breath running through us and a creation still grounded in what is. I am thankful that the firefighters are out there still. As Lawrence mentioned, they were there before in an unselfish way to help administer to this humanity, and they are still there now as these fires rage, bringing cleansing and purification, as the Mother Earth shakes herself through her earthquakes, through the tornadoes, through the mudslides, through the unprecedented snowstorms that are occurring after 80-degree weather, to this moment when the dawn did not come because it didn't get light until 11 a.m. Pacific. You are Mother Earth shouting so loudly at us. And I give great thanks that there are those that are listening, like those that are gathered here through Future Capital, the visionaries of our times, those that have the courage to step out of a box of what was and start to design the box of what is and what will flow through and forward in this time. I give great thanks for such beings, for they too are selfless in their efforts. They too are willing to jump with us into the new dimension of who we are so that we can open all hearts and raise consciousness across all lands so that we can stand together once again unified in our purpose and restored to a way of life that sustains life, that we can step out of an economy that extracts into one that shares and gives and realizes that all of us and all life itself is interwoven in an interdependent relationship with each other. That when that butterfly wing moves on the other side, a tornado may soar on the other side of the world, that we are that close in nature with one another, and we are all gathered here because we knew we would come to a time when things that were old would fall down, the cycle is complete, and a new beginning would rise up out of it. Let us celebrate this moment together. Let us stay focused on that which is breaking through. As my Kogi relatives in Colombia say, the ending is falling into the beginning and will roll out in 2026 by those individuals and organizations and movements that are based on original principle, those original principles of reciprocity, collaboration, heart, unity, and all life is sacred. And so we are here now, Creator. We are here because you called us and we listened and we stood up in our skin this morning and we greeted this dawn today to be a part of the new dreaming way that has landed. And for this, I give great thanks. My grandmother heart is full and overflowing, and I am strong in myself, and my heart is wide open, and we are listening. Instruct us in these times. Those original peoples came from the original days with instructions for Mother Earth, and they brought that line unbroken to sit at this table now and to share that instruction so we will know how to walk carefully as the making time instructs us. Please touch every heart that is gathered here. Touch them in their dreams, touch them in their inspirations, help them bring that inspiration to the table so that we might all humbly weave what you already have made. This is my prayer. This is my prayer. This is my prayer. Oh.
Thank you, Grandma Joyti.
Oh,
Thank you, everybody, for allowing us to share these prayers. Wishing in Tine Kwada, all be blessed. Thank you.
Jyoti and Jyoti and Mandahi, thank you so much. I'm excited to introduce Will Kennedy. Will Kennedy.
Thank you, Heather. I'm just humbled, actually. Those are such beautiful words. And, you know, from the United Nations, I'm sort of reminded that, that it is that consciousness of spirit and that ethic that the organization is missing, that we need. That as a global community, we're never going to achieve our aspirations for humanity and the planet without that message. And in many ways, without remembering what the indigenous peoples before us have always known. So, Mindahi and Jiauti, I am profoundly moved and grateful for your prayers and blessing, and I feel profoundly inadequate now to follow you. As a UN civil servant, I will do my best. You know, I have wonderful memories of the first inaugural meeting, founders meeting of Future Capital at the United Nations last year, and I was really inspired by what we just experienced, which was sort of a deeper spiritual dimension of this community, and also by the amazing experience and wisdom and generous spirit of the people gathered. It was really an extraordinary group in terms of what they had collectively accomplished, their breadth and the depth of their understanding of consciousness and capital, and the way that they came together, the spirit in which everybody came together, and the camaraderie that was there. I mean, it was so obvious that everybody really just enjoyed each other and enjoyed each other's company. And, you know, I knew from that moment that Future Capital was off to a beautiful beginning. And in fact, that's been the case because so many of the people at the founding meeting and many others since have been meeting religiously every month or more, sometimes weekly, in various working groups to advance this agenda. I want to thank especially our co-conveners of the Future Capital Network, Lawrence Ford and Heather Desjardins of Conscious Capital, Garry Jacobs and Mila Popovich of the World Academy of Art and Science, and my colleague Chantal Carpentier of the UN Conference of Trade and Development. And of course, everyone else that's been involved very actively in supporting the Future Capital working groups. Wanted to take a moment to very briefly reflect on the ongoing public health emergency. For me, what the pandemic has underscored and magnified is the extent of the structural inequalities and vulnerabilities that exist in our societies, and by extension, the urgent need for a new values-based financial paradigm to help close the widening socioeconomic gap. The UN Secretary General has referred to the COVID-19 pandemic as one of the most dangerous challenges this world has faced in our lifetime. And it has revealed the fragilities of our societies, of our economies, and of our planet. It has, in his words, laid bare risks we have ignored for decades: inadequate health systems, gaps in social protection, structural inequalities, environmental degradation, and climate risk. Entire regions that were making progress on eradicating poverty and narrowing inequality have been set back years in a matter of months. He has emphasized the point that the best response is one that responds proportionately to immediate threats while protecting human rights and the rule of law. Looking ahead, we all need to build back better. In this context, the Secretary General reminds us all that the Sustainable Development Goals provide the framework for a more inclusive and sustainable economies and societies, and that strengthening economic and social rights bolsters the resilience we all need for the long haul. With that, I'll look forward to hearing from members of the Future Capital family as you share your latest thoughts and reflections during the course of this event. And again, it's a great privilege to be a part of this tremendous community. Thank you.
Am I coming in, Heather? Yes. Thank you, everyone.
Coming in loud and clear, Chantal. It's an honor.
Thank you so much, everyone, and such a pleasure. And as you said, it's hard to believe it's been a year, and yet it feels like it's been a lifetime at the same time. So let me start by saying, you know, all protocol observed. I don't want to repeat what's been said. I think I just want to pick on a few words. One of them is interconnectedness. I think what this crisis has shown, we saw that last year when we were all together, and Truman Day, yeah, we see it, we're all interconnected. We all one. And if we didn't want to believe that, this COVID-19 has basically reminded us and showed it very clearly that we, and our Deputy Secretary General always says, we are as weak as the weakest of the health system out there. And so our economy is not going to restart until we fix that. And let me then pick up on where Will was saying. And you will recall that in my speech last year, I mentioned to you how the SDGs are actually the roadmap for the new development and how we should be developing. And it's the first time that humanity actually has goals and targets that we all agree on. And as Will said, they remain the guiding post for development. And what's interesting is, though, in 2014, when the SDGs were still being negotiated, UNCTAD estimated that developing countries alone to achieve the SDGs in 10 areas will need, there was a gap of $2.5 trillion a year for developing countries to meet the SDGs. Now, UNCTAD did an assessment, and just in terms of debt servicing for developing countries following the COVID-19, an additional $2.5 trillion, and that's confirmed by the IMF, would be needed for developing countries as their debt is basically all rolling out, all coming up, and their debt servicing is increasing, and actually they have no foreign reserves to pay for it. And in the past, we've always been told that that money was not there, and we just didn't have the money. And yet, magically, following the COVID-19, $11 trillion are being helicoptered in, mostly in the G20 countries. There was some developing countries, including Bangladesh and Ethiopia and others, have actually also put forward something like 2% of their smaller GDP, mind you. But it reminded us that when there's political will, there's actually the money is there. And so this morning, the senior management of the UN was meeting, and they were talking about the fact that the Secretary General had called for 10% of the GDPs of the world to be put forward to respond to this crisis, but not build back better. And sorry, Will, I'm going to correct you on that one, because we know what we had does not work. You don't have an economic system that's been building for 100 years that collapsed over 2 months if it was built correctly. So you don't want to go back. We need to rebuild better and learn from what we've been, our failure. We need to acknowledge our failure. This capital market that we have is working for the few at the expense of all the others in the planet, and we can't build back. We have to recover better. And so the Secretary General had called for this 10% of GDP to be put forward, and then somebody from another agency said, well, you know, that's $8 trillion. We're already at 11 trillion, but most of that money is staying in the G20. It's not going to developing countries. And yet, if you were to take 10% of the world global markets, that's $11.8 trillion, and that's plenty of money actually left to be able, and therefore this UN system has been, and with UNCTAD in the lead with others, have been focusing on aligning the capital market with the SDGs, because that's the only way we're going to get there. And so one of the things I find fascinating, and that brings me back right to the beginning of this, and what Heather and Lawrence were talking about, this garden, is this trust. And what we found is, as we lack leadership, and everybody before the COVID-19 hit us, right? We acknowledged we were not on track to meet the SDGs. So the Secretary General had called for a decade of action. And then the COVID-19 hit. And then basically everybody is waiting. There's no leaders. In the past, the US and other countries would jump in and try to call for a big meeting. The G20 met, were with very limited results. And so what happened is a little bit of what happened, I think, with this Future of Capital meeting, is like-minded came together, and then an alternative governance model came out. So Canada and Jamaica had been working together on this SDG financing in the past, and basically trying to see how we could align the capital market, focusing on pension fund, but aligning the capital market with the SDGs. And now they said, we can't wait. Somebody's got to step in. We need to do something. So they called for a meeting, and we had upward of 20 heads of state, including Angela Merkel and others, that joined in May and said, we got to do something. We can't wait for the superpowers to do something. So what are we going to do? And they identified 6 areas where we really needed to work together. And then what happened is, instead of having the G20, the powerful big countries deciding, they actually have a model of governance where it's different countries of different size and at different level of development that are actually coming together with a menu of options of what is it that the world together can come up with. We had a meeting of the ministers of finance 2 days ago where this menu was discussed, and now it's been revised and it's going to go to the heads of state on the 29th of September. And what's important for a group like this group is that what's going to happen now is going to depend on us, because these proposals are going to go to the heads of state. And of course, they're going to have a lot of lobby from the groups that benefit from the status quo. And they need to hear as much from the others that are convinced that the model doesn't work and needs to change. And we at UNTAD, along with our colleagues from other agencies, believe that we can recover better by building inclusive, resilient, sustainable, and connected new world. And let me just conclude in saying a few examples. It can be sustainable through green investment, as we all know, and decarbonize the economy. But also typically when we call for New Deal and New Green Deal, we focus on construction and infrastructure. That's job that goes to men. We know women are much hardly affected by this COVID. This is not a financial crisis. This is a pandemic that created a financial crisis, which means women are way more affected than men. And they're the one in the front line, and they're also penalized because of unpaid care work. If we were to invest that money in the care economy, we create 4 times more jobs. We actually create decent jobs for women and relieve them from this unpaid care work that they're doing, additional care work that they're doing during the COVID-19. So some people, the network of feminist economists have called that the purple economy. Another one is, how do we build resilient system? Well, the social and solidarity economy that has been developed a lot in the oftentimes non-Anglo speaking countries is actually something that build the capital at the community level and share responsibility and share ownership and decision making. That is the model that we can build on. The creative economy, which is called the orange economy, is also offering quite a bit of development opportunities for developing countries. And therefore, I believe that this group together today, if we keep thinking about the trust that we've built and the interconnectedness that we have, we actually can affect the decision that our heads of state are about to take at the 29th of September. Over to you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Chantal.
Hi to everyone from South India, about 9 to 10 time zones away from many of you. It's wonderful to be here. Wonderful to hear Heather and Lawrence and Will and Chantaline and to see all of you. And I look forward to hearing from you. I've been really inspired already by what I heard, because it puts me back a year and a half to when Lawrence first invited me and the World Academy to be a partner in this remarkable enterprise. And at that time I said, it's incredible because we're just starting a project with the United Nations in Geneva on how to fill the global leadership vacuum, which Will and Chantaline were just talking about. And that's the outer work. And you're talking about being at the UN in New York to talk about how to bring the spirit into life? Are you kidding me? I mean, this is a perfect gift and a perfect opportunity. And I said, I mean, after all, we only have a few issues we need to deal with. We've got to deal with the financial issues, the employment issues, the decline of democracy, the increasing nationalism and conflict and all of that, the return of nuclear weapons and all, nothing much that we have to worry about. And of course, that little thing called climate change, which is looming in the distance. But who could imagine a year ago of what was waiting around the corner to just smack us all in the, and just put everything in a new perspective and really change the rules of the game. And I'd like to pick up on a few comments that I've already heard, because in doing this, a brief summary is we've been working with the UN and about 20 other partner organizations, Future Capital being one of our key partners. Many of you here, core group, Lawrence, Catan, Mila, Frank, Thomas Reuter, Chantaline, Pavel, Stefan Brunhuber, Lotta, maybe some others who are, Carlo, and others I may have missed, on what can we really do to break this leadership logjam, this vacuum that's preventing us from acting at a time of such critical importance. And we convened a meeting in June, an electronic meeting, because all our physical meetings have been canceled, with about 200 speakers from around the world, many participants from Future Capital and our other partners, to really talk about what could be done, kind of like a process of discovery. And I'm mentioning this now because I want to extend this invitation to those of you who are here as part of this group who have not participated so far. And we came up with or rather the group came up with a gold mine of ideas that we're now processing to go back to the UN. Now the probable date is November, because we're supposed to have a big conference in Geneva, and Geneva is also problematic, and traveling there is equally so. But it's going to happen in a couple of months' time, one way or another, in which we're supposed to come with recommendations about what can be done to break this leadership logjam. And I'd like to just pick up on a few things that we've heard already. When Will was talking about, I can fully understand the frustration from within the organization when the UN realizes the magnitude of the tasks and responsibilities that have been laid on its shoulder without the funding it needs, without the authority it needs, without the resources of the world, which alone can really tackle these issues effectively. And it just reminds me, because one of the issues of our project is, what can we do to rebuild the multilateral system and rejuvenate and strengthen and develop the UN system to be what it needs to be now, rather than what it was originally conceived to be in a very different world 75 years ago this year. I mean, the challenges are so great, and the magnitude of responsibility we're placing on this organization and its allied agencies is so enormous that who could rise to that occasion? And I'm just reminded when Chantaline talks about the SDGs, that the SDGs, which are such an unprecedented achievement of 193 countries coming together, are actually the results of work started 73 years ago when the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was drawn up, without any power or clarity of how we're going to realize these things. And we've traveled so far in the world to the point where 193 countries sit down together and say, this is what we are going to do. And then, of course, the practical issues of how we're going to do it and how we're going to fund it. I was thrilled to hear about the latest work that Chantaline's work talking about how to fund the SDGs. We've got a whole task force working on that, and I hope if Catan has a chance, he'll tell you, because he's leading 5 groups. Apart from what he's doing directly with Future Capital, he's also doing on behalf of Future Capital with us in Geneva on looking at innovative financial strategies. Stefan Brunhuber's got another one. We know these SDGs can be financed. We know the money's available. And the pandemic's done a great service to us because it's broken the locks, it's broken the doors. It's got money out of the box of traditional outmoded economic theory that says there's simply not enough money available. There's enough money available to do everything we need to do if we're simply willing to break the conventions and certainly not fight for business as usual or going back to the old, but go forward to the new system that we need, a new paradigm. We've got to rebuild our multilateral system. We've got to build our financial and our economic system. And how we do that? We've got to put people at the center. Not money, not nation states, not power, not nuclear weapons. And isn't that what our FCI is all about? Putting the consciousness of human beings, the values of human beings, the deepest inspiration of us as human beings and talking not just about national security, which was the preoccupation of the UN when it was founded, and preventing another world war, but human security in all its comprehensiveness. And what the pandemic has shown us all is we're so vulnerable. We're so vulnerable to all of these things go together. They all meet in us, whether it's a pandemic or climate change or economy or financial crisis or nuclear weapons, it all comes back to us. And the power is with us. And isn't that the whole principle behind Future Capital? That the power is with us. The power is with consciousness, because consciousness is the origin of all power. And even the power of money has no power if we don't endorse it. It's we who decide what power that money has, whether we trust in it, how we're going to use it, the values we're going to express. So just to close, I just wanted to say I was surprised and delighted in June at a time when we expected a lot of very informed people to talk about all the problems. We were amazed at how much confidence there was that actually what we've got here is an unprecedented opportunity. And what looks on paper like the perfect storm is actually the perfect opportunity for a breakthrough. That's the outer expression. The inner expression is what we're working on here. And just to close, we are looking for catalytic strategies that can help really move things forward. I'll be happy to share with you on our website. You'll find a lot of material about what we're coming up with. But we still have 2 or 3 months before we go back to the UN. We're looking for practical strategies as to what can be done. We've heard some wonderful initiatives from Chantal in the public sector, in the government sector, but there are also things that can be done in the private sector. Katana is working on those, and other initiatives that you may be involved with. We need to collaborate. Global civil society needs to come together to do this. Multilateralism includes us. We are probably the most important new player on the block. So great to see you and love to work with you as we go forward. Thanks for the arrangements for this meeting.
Thank you, Garry.
Whew. Wow, thank you so much, Garry. When I stop and think about our year, we talked a lot about what brought us together last year, how it got there. Let me bring you in a little bit through my lens with how Future Capital came about. Lawrence Ford goes off to a beautiful event, Steve Schueth and his magic out in California, and meets a gentleman by the name of Will Kennedy, and comes back to Glastonbury, Connecticut and says, listen, I met this amazing gentleman, and I've been tasked to not hold a summit, not to hold a gathering, but to create a movement to change the way we look at the world, to change the way consciousness and capital combine at the nexus of both of those things. And I says, oh my gosh, we can't say no, but how are we gonna do it? And I'll tell you, we let the universe take the wheel. I stopped keeping count at 350, but the phone started ringing. Lawrence made 2 phone calls. The phone started ringing, people saying, I don't know why I'm calling you, or I have to talk to Lawrence, or what do you guys have going on? Something bigger was in store, something bigger was guiding us. And every time we thought we had it, we had 2 requirements for gathering individuals. Will Kennedy gave Lawrence 1 direction, saying collaborate, collaborate, collaborate. And every time we thought we had it, the universe kind of shook it up like Jenga, like in their hands. And what we had was 50 amazing individuals that we couldn't even have hoped for. But the 2 requirements was your glass was half full and you were willing to collaborate. And when we met at the United Nations, Will Kennedy spoke about the gathering, and we could feel it. You could feel it in his speech and his passion. Chantal Carpentier spoke and referenced Future Capital, that the United Nations hadn't felt something like this since Gandhi walked the halls of the United Nations, since Mother Teresa, who is my biggest idol, walked the halls of the United Nations. What it was different was that we were bringing these 2 things. We're bringing consciousness and capital into the room and allowing the universe to feel Why are we so moved listening to Mindahi, listening to Jyoti, listening to Will, listening to Chantaline, listening to Gary? These individuals are living their reason for being here, and we can feel it in our bones. My reason for being here, the most important thing that Lawrence has taught me along the way, is that there's nothing more important than determining your reason for being here and living it and spreading it into the world. So one of my reasons for being here is not only gathering all of you, but helping remind you all that you are here for a reason, and the world needs each of every one of us. And there is no mistake for us gathering here today. So I am excited. I'm going to turn it over to Stephen Schueth. We had a beautiful core group of individuals. Stephen Schueth came together, Patty Clower came together in the beginning with Lawrence and Chantaline and Will and Gary and Mila and Bjorn Larson and Richard Barrett and Patrick Sommers, and the list can go on and on and on and on. But each one of those individuals, again, is in touch with their reason for being here. So I'm going to stop talking, or I will go on forever. But I'm going to turn it right over to Steve. Steve?
So Heather, on the way to Steve, I promise I will be brief. I just that's an inside joke, obviously, but I did want to mention that part of that whole magic happening out there on the West Coast, in my meeting, Will was very determined and focused in a lot of magic by a woman named Amber Nystrom. My name for her is Abby, who is just an amazing human being who I wanted to just make sure that was said as well, who was in the mix of the magic and synchronicities.
Thank you. And thank you all. It is my honor to have been able to step into a leadership role of Future Capital after spending 30 some years doing the best I could to create what is now a very vibrant and impactful impact investment industry. And in fact, it's quite interesting that on September 11th every year, I forget that I'm reminded on September 11th every year of where I was on September 11th, 19 years ago. And that was at a conference. At that time, it was called the SRI in the Rockies Conference. And, you know, hosting 500 and some people, some of them, of course, from New York. Everybody in the room had been in the World Trade Center. The second day of our conference, we woke up to the towers burning on the TV news. And of course, the agenda for the day kind of went out the window, and we went into a of gathering, hugging, supporting a community of people who were the predecessors, if you will, to Future Capital. I am proud to have been involved with this for a long time, and now extraordinarily excited to be able to embrace each and every one of you in a way that is different, probably, than most of us have operated in the world. The unknown has been mentioned, spirit has been mentioned. What are we really about here? We're about creating a new operating system for humanity, which aligns with my personal mission, which has been to heal the money. Because if we don't get the money right, if you think about money in the context of, you know, the lifeblood of the global economy, if the money isn't healthy and it isn't flowing in the right direction, you know, nothing's going to work. And in fact, if you look at capitalist systems, just as a general definition, they are designed to generate wealth for a few and to simultaneously exclude most everybody else. The COVID crisis, and again, this has been alluded to a number of times already today, the COVID crisis has given us a kick in the ass to say, there's a better way. We've got to fix this. We've got to build, maybe not back better, Chantaline, but we've got to build better. And that's the purpose as we embrace reciprocity, as we embrace collaboration, as we value all life in a way that many people on the planet don't. I'm reminded that change begins with change makers. And so I'm honored and blessed to be a part of this group. I want to turn it over to Patty, one of my colleagues on the Future Capital core leadership team, to continue the conversation. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. Welcome, everyone. I'm so happy to see all of you that I know, that I'm just thrilled that you're here. And many of you I've never met, but I'm so happy you've joined. And it's, just an honor to be here. And I wanted to share something with you. From the very beginning of Future Capital, there's been this creative tension between the internal and the external aspects of our relationship. We began our journey a year ago with this question: why are you here? And the responses to that question 1 year ago led us all back here to this moment. It's a potent living question. And it leads me to think about the relationship between intention and attention. So what is my intention? Or what is our intention? What is my intention in this moment? What is my intention for this life? When I ask myself this question, I discover that I have many answers, and they seem to evolve and change. If we ask one another this question, we are likely to discover we all have many different intentions for ourselves, for the world, and for Future Capital. Yet they have some affinity with each other, or we wouldn't be together on this call. Now, attention. What are we paying attention to? Perhaps Future Capital is about attention. Chantal mentioned a couple of different economies, the orange economy, the purple economy. I want to bring up the attention economy. Already it generates billions of dollars, a single global currency based on capturing the attention of individuals who, by the way, have no share or even voice in monetizing their attention. The attention economy is the frontier, and it's already embedding the exploitive values of our current monetary economy into its engine. It's a huge topic that I feel deserves our attention, because our attention is valuable. What are we attending? If we stop right now and become really quiet, really present, and turn our attention to this exact moment, yourself, you are an intersection of eternity and now. You are a unique expression of existence in this moment, arising out of the space-time continuum to become. What is it you are becoming? So I want to invite each of us to attend to this courtship with the mysterious, perhaps hidden, yet eternally present consciousness that we all share and express in unique ways. For me, Future Capital is a call to ourselves and to others to live our life with awareness that our birthright is to give full expression to this mystery of existence, unfurling within and all around us with curiosity, openness, and love. And doing so, embed this into the code of all our creations and our economic models. Let's pay attention to that. Thank you for your attention. Now I'd like to open it up to our community to speak and invite your voice to be heard here in this space. And I just ask all of us to respect and have space between each other, between our words and between our conversations.
Thank you very much. I don't know the format. I'm Wolfgang Pinegger, but may I come in with some short words? Lawrence knows me very well. Thank you very much for inviting me. Had the same. And I would like to come in addressing Garry Jacobs' speech, because I think there is a lot of hints, and you may know me better with this link. You mentioned Stefan Brunhuber. I'm his partner. Stefan Brunhuber last year was the one showing in New York his way of solving the financial problems of sustainable development goals and all this. You may know about that. We had some calls later with Lawrence and Heather. And I wonder why he is not here, but I am the partner of Stefan Brunhuber, who built the blockchain-based network where we could execute his idea. Means from identifying the people who should get the coins, building the coins for the United Nations, distributing them. All this we have built already. The only problem for me is I would like to come further with Stefan's connections and my connections, because you also spoke about practical strategies. I think we are there. We just would need to be used. We are used today and building up something to develop rural India, markets in rural India. I'm every other month in India. Unfortunately, now my visa is not valid anymore. I'm dealing with SAP in Bangalore, so that project has been stopped, but it's again solving the poverty in rural communities. This we have done, but I would very much appreciate and like if any one of you could guide me, asked me to participate, to join, to get Stefan Brunhuber's and my idea further.
Excellent, thank you. And this is the spirit of this. So, you know, I'll ask everybody to obviously be brief, and we won't have a lot of time for back and forth. So if something inspires you with some of the work someone's doing, take a note, and we'll make sure that, you know, we'll all be connected. Nice to see you as well, Wolfgang.
Lawrence, may I go next?
I would love you to go. Nice to see you, Tal.
Good day. I just want to send my blessings from Tel Aviv. It's almost Shabbat here. The hours in this land around now, every Friday, those of you who've been here, and I see Gil and some of my beloved, you know, Garry was here and some of you, it's a mysterious because the Shabbat goes in, there's no other country when in Friday, something in the air shifts and something of holiness comes into the space, and you don't have to be religious when you see Shabbat, so some spirit bless this place, and we definitely need this place to be blessed because, as you know, we are a very big turmoil in many regards. And I wanted just to share myself because most of the time, and I told Lawrence, you know, it's very lonely when I'm not with you. It's like my hand doesn't know its fingers, you know, it's just, only when I'm with you and I can see Garry, do I know myself, because I'm constantly reminded by the coronavirus that I'm a cell, I'm a small cell, and sometimes I'm such a small cell that I forget that I have a reason to exist. And the purpose of my existence in this land was ushered in by spiritual forces many years ago. I'm very much aware of the big role and mission that the forces to be asked me to bring to this land. I carry the flag of peace, and I'm failing miserably. I'm carrying the flag of transformation, and it seems like it's going on the wrong direction, only to me to remember that the moment before the butterfly runs to its end, there's this moment, magical moment, that his wings come across. And I keep being reminded of my beloved friend and partner, Barbara Marx Hubbard, who once charged me by saying, Moses, don't give up. She said, you will never give up. You've been sent here and you need to find the magic. So I tell you, the magic is you. The magic is that I'm here meeting some people we've never met, and we're no stranger to each other. I want to introduce myself by who I am, like a commitment. I'm very clear. I'm a partner, and I'm privileged to work very closely with Yehuda Kahana, who is very dear to many of you, and is one of my biggest teachers. Yehuda was the first one that heard my call in the year 2008, when somebody was asking me, Tal, what's next? And I said out of nowhere, like God strike me, we need to reboot humanity. Little did I know that 12 years later, a small virus from another part of the world put the world into total reboot, and we cannot any longer continue with what we've done. So we need to reboot. And in reboot brings me to life, because I realized during the last 12 years that in order for us to reboot, we need to have a series of transformations, not one, not two, a series of serious transformations. And what I found myself working on very closely and actually directing and in inquiry, which I'm now sharing with you and I'm asking to your support, I found myself asking the question, what would it take for nations of people to become an SDG nation? What would it take for us in 10 years to have 195 nations, countries, cities to transform? What would it take for us at the last moment, almost when it looks like it's inevitable that we're going to crash, to find our wings? And the answer for that is in the work that we're doing on transformation. And I'm inviting you to join me if you are interested in finding out what are the series of transformations that a nation of people must undergo in order to transform to become an SDG. We think it's a critical pathway, and we must join to find the solution on the state of the nations. I'm small, from a small country, big heart, and what's good about me is you. I have lots of very great friends, and that's what I'm counting on. So in the eve of this very special gathering, I'm extending our invitation. And when I'm not religious, I pray to God. I really pray to God for godly intervention in humans' ability for a new group consciousness on planet Earth that allow us to look at the face of my grandchildren who are about to come for dinner, for Shabbat dinner, and to look them in the face and say, yes, we carried on and we found the greatest part of us. We found within us what allow us to transform humanity and to reboot humanity. And I would like that to happen in my lifetime. And so is yours. I wish you all the best, and thank you for listening to me and being my closest selves before I go back to loneliness and until we meet again.
Oh, thank you, Tal.
That's beautiful.
I just wanted to say to everybody, it's beautiful, Tal, thank you. And one of the things I just wanted to mention, because I know that when these things happen, we'll quickly run out of time. So I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. I just wanted to remind everybody that we do monthly calls. It's part of the nature of what we do. And we bring everybody together for monthly calls. We have 3 people who will highlight the work they're doing so we can spend time formally talking about that. While everybody else begins, comes and listens and watches what's in this garden and what's being seeded. the things that start to take root become working groups. We have some representative of working groups on the call today. We don't have time for, a full, rundown of what's happening in those working groups. But if any of those people want to chat and speak up right now, that's wonderful. Not necessary, but I wanted the group to know how that's becoming here at Future Capital as well.
Lawrence, shall I have a go at one of them?
Please, sure. Thank you.
Sure.
Hello, Chantal.
Hello, hi everybody. It strikes me this is such a beautiful event, and there are more than 200 people, as you said, attending, and only a subset of us met last year. But I would guess that everyone can feel the beauty of that time we all spent together. As I reflect back, I only came, I remember, because Chantal invited me, and I didn't really know you, Lawrence, and it's been a pleasure to get to know you and to get to know so many of you. And that includes Garry, who I've started to work with, and Mila too, and a whole group of you actually now. September the 11th was my first day in 2001 moving to New York. So coming to this group last year, it was a special day for many reasons for me personally. That event though was such a beautiful event and so touching. I have the sense it touched everybody there, and we were all bonded in some way because we were all there together. A lot of projects came out of it, and one of them was a project on launching a movement with capital. The aim of the project was to see if a movement could be launched where there would be systems change for the common good, where capital and finance would become a force for good, spurred by the leading financial institutions of the world, who would set a bar for other financial institutions to strive and reach the same bar and then surpass each other. It seemed very ambitious, frankly, and I think it still is. And we have enormous support and oversight from Chantal and Will Kennedy. And they've been great. We have a core team who are the active working team, includes Lawrence, Frank Dixon, Catherine Collins, Mark Sloss, Gil Friend, Steve Lovnick, and Terry Molnar. And we convene and try and steer and do the work to make sure the project can deliver. I'm not going to go too much into the detail, but I wanted to give you some of the headlines, given the ambition of it. And it has to succeed, I believe, because not everything in the world of finance and capital is greedy, selfish, and evil. And it's a currency that has to be combined with consciousness to affect the world for positive change. As we arrive in the next civilization, we push that forward. And the seeds of that change are already here in so many financial institutions and so many communities. And we needed to find them, shine the light on them, and see if we'd get the rest of the world in that arena to participate. We identified 45 of the world's top financial institutions, which include the world's largest pension funds, investment banks, asset managers, sovereign wealth funds. So, representatives of the trillions of dollars around the world that exist and are currently deployed. The outreach has gone out to this group. There are 20 that are engaged. There are 12 more that we are engaging in the next week or so. We're producing an analysis of what these people are doing to promote ESG, citizenship, communities, sustainable communities, particularly embracing the SDGs and making an impact. And other things they're doing as a force for good, including in this pandemic. And it's quite wide-ranging. The initial results that are coming in actually show that whether it's for their own commercial reasons, their brands or reputations, to make money, or because they're just run by good people, they're doing fantastic things. And if we can find the good amongst this community and show it to the rest of the community and the world, I think we'll make an enormous impact. And so that's the objective. We are perhaps 2/3 or 3/4 of the way through. It's still too difficult to say whether we will succeed, but certainly it looks like the momentum is there And with the support and very practical advice we have on what works and doesn't work from the oversight we get from Chantal and Will, we are headed in the right direction. So I hope to report back at some point with the team and on behalf of the team how we're doing to actually bring it to a close. But as I say, it's the first step in launching the movement. And as Garry mentioned, I've been enormously privileged where Mila helped me get into a group that Garry runs, where we have other initiatives too that other people are leading and launching that are the intersection of finance and big issues. This has been quite a big effort that Lawrence, I, and the others that I mentioned have been doing. And I really hope that from all the efforts and the visioning and the dreaming we did last year, that this one can be brought to a head in the last quarter of this year and deliver something tangible that launches real change. I'm hopeful, and I really do believe we're on the right track.
Thank you for your tireless work, Ketan. We've got a lot of hands up. I know Brace, I'm going to let you go. And then also I want to remind people that do your best to be brief because we've got a lot of people and not enough time, which is the way it always works. But remember, we're going to do this once a month. And for those of you who couldn't get on with your pictures, you can raise your hand and our team will make sure that we look to call on you. But Brace, take it away.
Yeah, just as a follow-up to what Ketan was saying, I just wanted everybody to be aware of a body of work that was released yesterday. It's been in progress for 5 years, but was updated yesterday. It's an index called the Social Progress Index. It was created by Michael Porter at Harvard Business School and Michael Green in London. And the 2020 analysis of it was made public yesterday. There was an article in the New York Times looking at how it applied to the United States, but it is looking at every major country in the world and actually can dive down within countries into other jurisdictions. And the basic thesis is to assess how well government is serving the population away from GDP. And so the three major pillars that they assess using all publicly available data are basic human needs, foundations of well-being, and opportunity, to fundamentally and quantitatively assess, both relatively and absolutely, outcomes of how government is basically benefiting the population or not. And it's been measured over the last 5 years. One telling thing for those of you who are in America, the United States has now dropped to 28th in the world and the only one of the G7 that's declining in its service. And where all of you are, I think, collectively viewing on how you can alter the system, I think one thing that we all believe to be true is that we do have to focus more on outcomes and to be cognizant that money can be spent poorly. Just spending money, doesn't really do anything. And the United States, as many countries, appropriate money without outcome-centric frameworks associated with this. And the SPI does, I think, a pretty good job, maybe not perfect, but using all publicly available data to assess this. And you can dive right down. I think the work hasn't been done, but I think this all can be linked back to the SDGs and to some degree an assessment of how well government is meeting the SDGs or not, as the case may be. And then finally, I'm a fundamental believer that if you want to change the system, that you have to be able to to some degree, at least figure out what buttons you can push within the system to make people change their behavior faster. And I think one mechanism is to, we're trying to do the work now, but I think these factors will help explain why bond spreads are higher or lower relative to one another. And so if you can demonstrate that governments or other borrowing bodies serve the population less well, and it costs them more money to borrow, it is an incentive for government to change their behavior if you can demonstrate that their total cost of capital is higher than it would be if they behave better and serve the population better. We're working on that analysis right now, but I think it is highly likely to be fundamentally true.
Could I follow up on that?
Frank, go for it.
Well, thanks, Brace, and thanks for all the great comments. I was at Steve's SRI and the Rockies conference in Tucson, Arizona in 2001 on September 11th, and it was horrible. I had traveled there from Manhattan where I lived, and when I got back there, it was just terrible. And feels like now, 20 years later with COVID and the fires, that we're going through a slower but much wider collapse. So, and it's an opportunity in a sense. So I wanted to pick up on just three brief things that Chantal said. One was funding the SDGs. The other one was aligning the financial system with them, and then a roadmap to them. We're living in the middle of an injustice as bad as slavery that few people understand, related to money creation. And that is that banks create the private sector creates 95% of the money here. And so when government needs money, they borrow and pay interest, and there's limitations on it. We could create the money ourselves, pay no interest, and have all the money that we need to fund the SDGs and support society during COVID. It's a huge injustice. They're creating money out of free air. We pay to use it. We could create it ourselves and pay no interest. The second one, another huge opportunity, is we've got the $30 trillion responsible investing market that's focused on problems instead of root causes. The SDG climate change didn't just show up, it's there because of our reductionistic thinking. Interconnectedness is the solution to that. We can shift the focus of responsible investing with higher consciousness investing to root causes, the flawed systems that are creating these problems in the first place, creating the fires. If we don't address root causes, we won't solve the problem. So there's an opportunity for a paradigm shift in investing. And then the third point is the roadmap to achieve the SDGs. The SDGs are a human-centric view of sustainability. They're phenomenal, best thing we've ever done in the sustainability movement. But the ultimate reality-based framework is nature-centric. And so the roadmap for sustainability and achieving the SDGs is abiding by the laws of nature. One of them, for example, is equitable resource distribution. That's not a philosophy. Systems that don't do that don't survive. If we were doing that, we would achieve almost all the SDGs. So basic idea, shift from private sector money creation to public sector, shift the focus of responsible investing from symptoms to root causes, and use the laws of nature to guide us in achieving the SDGs. Thank you.
I'd like to, this is Jyoti. I just want to jump on the back of what you just said. I'm a grandma and I'm living here in California, as you heard in my prayer. And I've been walking with our indigenous nations for over 30 years. And so what we're looking at right now is that 80% of our biodiversity of this planet is being threatened. And it's our indigenous people that are on the front lines right now. And they'll tell you that they're not there just because they're trying to stop the fires and the wars that are going on against our forests and our natural ways that maintain and sustain life here on this planet. But they're doing it for all of the world because they know that it's that great of a moment that we're in. And so if we can take all of this amazing, inspired kind of contribution that you've been bringing forward this morning that really is filling my heart with hope, if we can bring our focus to really get that 80% is under attack right now. That I have people and friends and relatives that are dying on the front lines right now, selflessly trying to protect that biodiversity so life can be sustained on this planet right now. Can our sacred economy flow into and surround and return us back to the nature that you've been speaking about, the nature of this land, of this planet? And can we then flow it into those that have been sustaining and maintaining the biodiversity for this long through all of it with very little resource, little resource at all? That's my grandmother question to you, and the wisdom that you carry that's far beyond mine. But I really want to put down a really a request that we listen to that intelligence of nature and that we understand she has the plan. Can we be humble enough to turn around to those that hear her and can give that instruction to us in the design that's coming from this very important and significant visionary group that is about life sustaining and life honored? Thank you.
Thank you, Jyoti. Listen,
Thank you.
I'd like to make a very quick comment here that we certainly don't have time for it, but there's an incredible working group that's happening within Future Capital that Jyoti is involved with, which is a sacred territory, very progressive land project, which we can talk about another time. I've got an idea. We're way out of time. So how about we do like a speed round? Maybe we could do that because there's so many people we want to hear from. Maybe we start with Catherine, then go to Ernest, and maybe you guys can model like a 30-second kind of thing, if that's possible. And then we keep
Catherine had to drop off, Lawrence.
Wow, boy, she's a achiever, overachiever. Okay, so she went faster.
Hashtag overachieving right there.
Hey, Ernest, why don't you go first?
Oh my goodness, man.
You owe me one, right?
Speed run.
Well, you know, I just want to say thanks to everybody who's here, all the energy that's in the room. I'm right now producing a television travel docuseries about friendship and connection around the world. It's out on PBS, and it's just about community building and teamwork, making the dream work. And so I'm just excited to see where synergies happen and how I can be supportive for everyone here as a visual storyteller. So yeah, thank you, Lawrence.
You're welcome.
And Heather.
A lot of representatives of, you know, the power of media, right? Capital comes in many different forms, and media is very powerful. Doing great work for us, Ernest. Okay, who's next?
Thank you.
Just jump in.
Mila.
Thank you so much. I just really want to honor every single one of you that converge together. It is so much important to show up in public spaces like this. I want to honor Lawrence and Heather, Patty and Steve for the foundational work, and everybody else that we know worked over the last year or so. I find it very important that we be the group that is sustaining the spiritual development goals, because the practicality of knowledge is there. We need to synthesize that knowledge, but we also need to synergize our actions together. And this is a space where the tremendous work from every single one of you is already being built. It just needs to be connected well. And to be in the space of the realization that ideals such as spiritual development goals are very practical, very precise, and very grounded is so important, that we understand that when we have these tremendous pressures, global pressures, that the rising higher is the only way out and up. So to support the systems that are already put in place to move fronts and to create movements, it is a wonderful place to be here together and continue to work together with the World Academy, with UNCTAD, with Lawrence's leadership and the entire collective leadership and the capacity to connect better. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Mila. Patrick.
Thank you. When I look in the eyes of my grandchildren, then I know why I do what I do, and then I know why I am part of this Future Capital movement. So I'm so happy with what Jody mentioned about her grandma question. I support it completely. I have a quote of Gandhi, and even today on the 9/11 day, his words sound like music in our ears. The only devils in this world are those running around in our own hearts. And that's where all our battles should be fought. And I use this quote to make an almost Future Capital song, and the lyrics sound like the heartbeat of humanity. The blessings of Future Capital and conscious economies in this world are those running around in our own hearts, and that is where all our intentions should be celebrated. The blessings of Mother Earth, abundance and shared prosperity in this world are those running around in our own hearts. And that is where all our intentions should be co-created. The blessings of forgiveness, compassion, and contribution in this world are those running around in our own hearts. And that is where all our intentions should be activated. and the blessings of the past, the future, and the present in this world are those running around now in our own hearts. And that is where all our intentions should be realized. Thank you.
I have a few points to make, if I could.
Please.
My name is Dr. Alwyn, and I really honor this group because there's so many powerful approaches and mandates that you're meeting that are real, that tend to be ignored. Before I say a few points, I want to thank Heather for his invitation, and I really appreciate it, and I'm happy to be here. One of the things I've found from working with leaders from around the world for more than 25 years is that there's some fundamentals we do not develop to establish a strong foundation from which we operate. So for instance, we talk about humanity. What is that to each one of us? When we talk, are we aligned? So therefore the solutions that we are concluding are aligned, and therefore our processes are aligned so that we know we are talking, we are singing from the same page and in the right key. Another thing is that when we meet like this and we leave, are we all interpreting the message? Is there an aligned message that's going on? Or are we interpreting our message from our different experiences? So therefore, when we leave, we don't leave with a concrete message that is aligned, but we leave with a dispersed message. And I feel that this is very important, that when we come together, we leave with something that is aligned so that when we go out there to do our work, we are advancing it. And that's my 2 cents worth in a short period of time.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Go ahead, Lawrence. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say on the East Coast in the United States right now, it's unfortunately 12:31. And I would like to say that this is not the end. It is the beginning. And we are all here together. And it is such an honor to have all of you spend such precious time to come together with this family. And I would like to make sure that everybody knows, in spirit of it not being the end, we are doing our monthly calls. So this is really just the beginning of the collaboration within Future Capital, or the continuation if you've been with us from the beginning. And gosh, we could go on for another hour with these amazing souls on this call. And but we do need to wrap it up. Steve, Heather, anybody else, any final words?
Yeah, I'll jump in before we go. Just a special thanks, like Lauren said, thank you so much. And I'm going to hammer it home. This is just the beginning. So we want your voice to be heard. We want you all to be seen. You all have a very special song that your soul is dying to get out into the world and expand, Dr. Owen, like you said. So Patty's going to put in the chat for us our email. Our next Future Capital conversation is October 14th at 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. October 14th, 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. I thought it was worth saying a second time. Mark your calendars. I'll make sure you all have a personal invite. And the forum with this is a very open forum, similar to this one, that we have 3 people speaking what they're doing, good work they're doing in the world, and then we open it up. So we look forward to hearing from you. If you'd like to be considered to present on a future Capital conversation, please feel free to email. Patty put that up at info@futureofcapital.org. And for more information, futureofcapital.org is our website. Thank you all so much for joining us. Lawrence, I see your hand up. Yes.
I just thought about something. When you go to the beautiful website at www.futureofcapital.org, know that the most amazing Elena Tobin has provided so much of her time for us and help, who's on the call with us today with our marketing material. And we're so grateful for you, Elena. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So much love for this family.
Thank you so much. And as tradition, Lawrence, I'd like Lawrence to lead us into a moment of silence on our way out. We open up our meetings this way and we close our meetings this way. And it has been nothing short of an honor to be in your presence today for 90 minutes. Thank you so much. Lawrence will lead us into a moment of silence and then you drop off as you feel appropriate. Blessings to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Heather. And just because this is something new, probably for most of you, it's kind of really cool. It's like truly whenever you feel like dropping off, there's no time too soon or too late. Just drop off when you're done. So let's just do this. Let's just take, as we were talking, as Patty was talking about attention and intention, let's just take our attention with our combined intentions of making the world a better place and this magical spot of this nexus of consciousness and capital, whatever that means to you within your form of capital in your world and how we're all making the better world a better place. So let's us all just come together in silence and dream into, in a time of so much negativity and fighting and us against them, let's just dream into this world that we want it to be and just see it and just sit in meditation together and visualize it in our own way and somehow magically feel that in each of our own intentions, this is weaving this beautiful fabric together of our future.